Hey, it's Riding Side Saddle. We're back again with Lisa and Tammy.
And Mary.
Here
we are.
We're back. Riding Side Saddle. This concept started with a couple of cousins who like to talk about things, we dig under the surface.
A lot.
We do
talk
a lot. And we think we're kind of funny, and so we thought,
who else will love us?
There's
so many people.
We're so funny, we should have our own show. That's how this started.
Literally, that is how it
did.
started.
In Lisa's kitchen, and our husbands were looking at each other like, oh shit.
What the hell are they up to now?
Might be serious.
Right. So now we're at the end of the second season,
We are.
which is amazing because we were serious about it.
Yeah. It took a while to get here, but here we are, end of season 2, and we've had 2 episodes already with our book club.
Yep.
So as we are currently, and this is very fluid, so don't write this in stone, but it seems like it is feeling like maybe we're going to, I don't want to be pigeonholed, like we maybe are going to have a book club at the end of
Every season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is awesome.
For now, anyway.
Yeah.
We may change our minds.
And And we have a best friend in our studio.
Mary.
Hi, guys. It's Mary.
It's Mary. She's part of our book club.
Yes.
So at the end of each season, we're intending to review a different book. It might be 1 episode. It might be 5. We have no idea.
Well, so far it's 3, maybe 4.
We're currently at 3.
This is number 3 of You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life by Jen Sincero.
Yeah. So Mary, let's start us off.
Yes. We left off at part 4, so chapter 14.
Page 135.
Yep, page 135. So this chapter is called It's So Easy Once You Figure Out It Isn't Hard. And let me flip through my little non-existent tabbies.
Really? So I realized that Mary and I each read a soft cover book.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa listened to the audio version. I come with my book to our next recording, and I've got a few tabs.
Oh, tell me how many.
About 50.
No, more than that. Cold. Increase it.
Mary has no tabs.
No tabbies.
She has like highlights in the margin where she's, taken a pen and,
Like pen
bracketed.
Like, this
sections.
is important.
Right. And I said to her, Mary, I'm going to get you some tabs. That if I know one thing, it's that girl needs some tabs.
I do. I need some tabbies.
She needs some
some
sticky tabs. Yeah.
Yes,
So-
for sure. Okay, let me see. So
Well, I highlighted on the very, I really love the quotes at the beginning of the chapter.
They are impactful.
They are impactful. So this one was by Albert Einstein. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. I feel like that, honestly, it is.
Dissect that for me. How do you perceive that?
So I feel like that is my perception of the way I was raised is my perception. It's my reality because it's my perception. I have a brother and a sister. Their perception may be completely different than mine.
Right. Through the lens
It is
which
still
you look.
reality.
Yes.
For them. Reality, it is merely an illusion.
It is through the lens that you look.
Absolutely. I was having this conversation with my husband today. We had a conversation with with a few different people, and somebody said something, and later someone else was like, gosh, when that person said this, like I've heard that before and it's really starting to bug me. And so as my husband and I are talking about this, I was like, but that is that person's perception. It doesn't mean that person is wrong, but your perception is different because you had a different experience doing the same thing.
That's exactly right.
Things changed, and now this perception comes in after things have changed. That perception is very different. Like it doesn't mean that anybody is wrong.
Right.
Your perception is your reality.
That's right.
Period. End of story.
That's right. And it is just as real as anybody else's.
Absolutely. Right. It is.
there is not one that's more accurate or more real
No.
or more truthful.
No.
They are different, but
they're
all real.
Right, right. And I think that it is very easy to be like, oh, that person is so frustrating, or my sibling, they are just so aggravating to me. We grew up in the same house and they did not at all. That is not what happened. Well, it's what happened for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't feel it in the same way because you're not them.
Right. You're right.
It doesn't mean what they experienced was wrong. It was different. And sometimes it's very hard to understand, especially in that familial environment. We all grew up in the same house, especially if there's,
Multiple siblings.
right. And not just like 2 or 3, but maybe there's 6 or 8 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we all grew up in the same house. What, like we've got this one black sheep. Why do they feel it differently than everybody else?
Yeah, there's so much to that. I feel like there's like a kaleidoscope to that, right? Because
That's interesting.
not only, right, so I'm the oldest of 3 kids.
Yeah.
There's 7 years difference between myself and my youngest brother. And based solely on the hierarchy of the family, right? Me being the oldest, me being the girl, being that there's 7 years difference, just by itself, those physical changes change that perception drastically.
What do you mean, those physical changes?
Well, I'm a girl and my youngest sibling is
Okay.
a boy. There's
7 years.
My parents were 21 and 22 years old when they had me, and add 7 years for my youngest brother. I was the first child, so they didn't have experience when they had me, but they had experience of 2 children already by the time that they had my youngest brother. That changes everything.
Gotcha.
And then the predisposition of my personality,
Yeah.
right? Like things might bother me in a way that's different than maybe the same exact thing could have happened to like, and I would have experienced it one way as opposed to my youngest brother, who the same exact thing could have happened, but he experienced it in a different way because of his predisposition and his
Sure.
personality.
Sure.
Like it's a kaleidoscope. You keep turning the lenses,
Ooh, that is
multiple
really
lenses,
interesting.
and it comes out different.
Yeah.
Totally different.
What's also interesting to me as you're talking, I'm realizing you're both fire signs.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
All 3 of us are actually, because
Oh,
Jeremy's a
Jeremy is
Leo.
too?
Yeah.
I don't know much about
Yeah.
the Leo fire.
Yeah.
Their fire sign.
Real fiery.
I guess I should have known that.
Yeah.
I feel like duh.
Yeah. All 3 of us are fire signs.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to skip past
Yeah,
that
you
because
can.
we could
Let's
evaluate
not
I was like,
psychoanalyze the Greenwald family. Fuck, not today. I need another beer for that.
Stay tuned.
For real, I need another beer for that.
Yeah, we might need to do that another decade. Anyway, Mary. Back to Mary.
Back to Mary. Yeah, I like that this book points out that each reality is its own. So you have your own reality of the situation. I have my own reality of the situation. But I like that moving through this chapter, becoming aware of what you're gaining from your stories.
Ooh.
And,
But what is a story? What do you mean by stories?
I think that your story is your truth. But if you back up, she goes, like, specifically pay attention to sentences that begin with, and then she lists like, I always,
Yeah.
I never, I can't, I should, I suck at, I wish. And I even find myself doing that all the time. It's a hard pattern to
It is,
to
isn't
break.
it?
Because in my reality, it's all about me. Like,
Well,
that's
but
the
it should
truth,
be, right? It is
Yeah.
your reality.
Yeah.
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 I feel like those are, the way I simplified it for myself, those are negative affirmations, right? I don't know what the opposite of an affirmation is, right? Traditionally, affirmations are positive. I am this, I do this, I succeed at this. What we're referring to is those things, those stories that we told ourselves about things that we can't have or can't do or suck at, aren't good at. This always happens to me. I should do this, but I don't. So there's that gap there, and they're the stories we tell ourselves that have negative ramifications. Right? Well, this is true about me. It isn't a positive truth, it's a negative truth.
Yeah.
And we all have them.
That's really an oxymoron, a negative truth.
Well,
Right?
like I tease about I'm really horrible at math. I can't do math in my head. And I can't do
So
math
that's
in
a
my
truth.
head, right? But it's a negative truth, right? Like I'm not saying
Because it's a deficiency.
correct. So you could add that like recipe to anything.
Yeah.
Like I can't talk in public. I'm horrible at it. I'm not good in relationships. I can't hold a job. I can't save money. Like those types of things.
Yeah, I see that. Well, Jen Sincero, the author of this book, defines stories. She says, we call these stories, in quotes, stories, because they are just that. They're not the truth.
Yeah.
You might be good at math,
I'm
for
actually not.
instance. But that might be what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe you actually are good at math in the right circumstance.
With a
Right?
calculator
Stop.
and somebody leaning in with the answer.
You're missing the point, Lisa.
No, I think a really good example of that is if you have siblings. So a personal experience for me is that each sibling kind of had their own identity.
Yeah.
Like my oldest one was the smart one, and my middle one was the musical one, and then I was the black sheep. I didn't have an identity. I was like,
You're the
uh-oh.
baby. You're just the
Yeah,
baby.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, this one doesn't have an identity. She's not good at anything.
Oh,
That's sad.
sad and
But-
completely not true.
Correct.
Yes, and that's it's not true. That's the thing.
Right.
But like when you're, born and raised to think that, oh, the oldest one, she's the smart one, so I
Yeah.
can't be smart.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, the middle one, she
Interesting.
can sing, I
She's
can't
creative,
sing. Yeah.
but not you.
That happened to you too.
It did, yeah. So I was the smart one, but I was not the creative one. My brother was the creative one. My sister was the baby. Like she just, everything she did seemed, and again, this is my perception. If she hears it, she will completely disagree. But everything she did was okay, right? From my perception. She would absolutely say that wasn't true. My brother would say the same thing. Like, I got in trouble more than anybody. I felt like he got off more than anybody.
Yeah.
Like like the hammer came down on me
Yeah.
because I was the oldest. Everyone's perception is different.
It is.
Everyone's story is different.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though. This is what she says that really rang true for me. You are the author of your own life. Not your parents, not society, not your partner, your friends, the bullies who called you Fatzilla or a bubble butt or
Little better letter B.
little letter B. Those people are not the author of your life. And the sooner you decide to write yourself a better script, the sooner you get to live an awesome life.
Yeah. So I might be jumping because of course I don't have all the tabs in front of me. But what I do remember from this particular chapter was we all tell ourselves these stories.
Sure.
And perhaps, negative connotation, negative truth, as I had mentioned earlier, however you perceive that. And even in those negative stories, if you dig deep enough, there's something that oftentimes you're benefiting. Because if you're sold to that story, I'm not good at math, as a ridiculous
your
example,
story.
right?
Sure.
So if I'm not good at math in my head, I can feel very comfortable to look at somebody else and say, well, what kind of tip should I add to this?
Okay.
And that lets me off, right? I literally did that tonight. I'm not good at math. What kind of tip
What
should I
tip
add?
are we leaving? Yeah,
Right. Like it is, there are hidden benefits oftentimes to these negative situations or stories that we are telling about ourselves that might not necessarily be at the surface. Like, well, if I'm bad at math, then I don't have to be put on the spot to calculate something in my head really quickly in a public place. It makes me uncomfortable when I'm in a public setting, and it's just easier to look at somebody else to do something like that. You know, if your negative story is, I can't find a decent guy. I'm not good in relationships, right? Like there are so many hidden benefits to that by saying, yeah, I suck at relationships. And in the background, I have my full freedom. I don't have to answer to anybody. I can be unique because
Also,
everybody else gets into relationships and I don't. And
also, you get to not put yourself out there.
yeah,
Your insecurities don't come to the forefront.
That's right.
You don't
You keep
have to be
yourself safe.
vulnerable. Your heart doesn't get touched or broken or nourished even, right? It's funny that you mentioned that because that was my next flag.
Oh,
My
really?
next tab. Yeah, she's talking about that. Lone-hearted Sally.
Yeah.
That's what she called her.
Yeah.
Always says she can't find a good single man. Really? There's literally nobody else on the planet. All of the good guys have been killed off.
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
nobody. So your friend who just found a good guy, that was the last good guy on the whole planet?
Right. But if you say that's true about yourself, then that
Then it's
stands
true,
as a
isn't
truth. Right? And then
Yes.
I don't have to do this
Right.
uncomfortable thing or feel this way or feel vulnerable or any of those
Also,
additional pieces.
yes. And also, I don't have to explain, you're such a catch. Why are you still single? Well, there are no good guys left. Okay, fair enough. Moving on.
Right.
Really?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that goes for the jobs. There are no
It
good
does.
jobs.
Yeah.
I have to stay in my sucky job because there are no good jobs to be had.
It does.
Right? I mean, people get new jobs every day.
There's just hidden benefits. And I think one of the exercises in this, or one of the practices in this chapter, if I remember correctly, was to kind of like lay out some of those negative components about, what you say about yourself,
Yeah.
what you believe about yourself, and be like, all right, so what am I actually getting out of this that like isn't necessarily at the surface, and
Right.
just like dive deeper into that. Do you want to be good at relationships or not?
Right? And it's okay if you don't.
Sure.
But don't blame all the good guys. All the good guys are gone.
Right.
They're all
Yeah.
gone or
Right.
dead. They're taken. They're dead. They're non-existent. Don't
own
blame
it.
that. Just
then own it.
Right. Then
Right.
just be, this is my story. I don't want to be attached to somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. I like being by myself. That's okay too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the point. Like create your reality. Don't just whatever somebody has forced upon you, whatever your environment growing up was, whatever your, adult environment is, that doesn't have to be your reality. You can change that at any moment. You are in control.
I feel like this is just a really good exercise
Yeah, for sure.
to go through and do. And she talked about, like it could be several pages worth of reasons why you kind of hide behind this.
Absolutely. Well, she calls them your favorite self-sabotaging stories.
That.
Yeah. If you do want to rewrite your story, start paying attention to what your favorite self-sabotaging stories are.
Yeah. And they start with, what did you say, Mary? Shoulds, always,
I can't,
nevers.
I should.
I
Yeah.
wish.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm always, I'm never.
And
I
we
don't
all
have one day, maybe I will.
Yeah.
we all have a bucket load of those
Oh,
fuckers
good
too.
Lord, do we ever?
Right? Like a big heaping bucket load. So to literally just like
if only.
point it out for yourself
Yeah.
when you come across it.
Right.
Right. And just jot it down. Like, okay, well,
If only this, then I could that.
Right.
That's
I
one of
wish-
my favorites.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
Boy, it would be nice if.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Right.
bullshit.
Right. I sometimes read articles about somebody who, like basically threw in the towel on their life and traveled the world for, a year or whatever. I'm like, yeah, must be nice. No, I'm not. I'm not looking at anybody else's car.
Oh,
I'm not saying that at all. Stop. That's not what I mean. Nobody in here is traveling the world for a year. I'm just saying that like I've read articles about this. Like, so I quit my job and I was like, nah, the hell with it.
Yeah,
I
fuck
was
it.
like, well, finding great for you because you have this.
Yeah.
If only I had.
Yeah.
Right. So
Bullshit.
again, the
It's
comparison is
bullshit.
the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Right. So that person, I look at that and I think, well, that's great because your parents were rich and left you a pile of money. Well, that's great because you had a partner who made, 7 figures.
bazillion dollars.
And I
Yeah.
don't, right. So, but I don't have that. So I can't do that.
But it's you
If
telling
only-
yourself that.
that's it. That's my whole
opposed,
point.
Yeah, as opposed to, well, that's really awesome. How am I going to do that too? Because I'd
Yeah.
really like to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I get stuck at, I stop.
Right.
It's not even getting stuck. I stop at, but I don't have what you have, so I
Right.
can't do that.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
If
right.
only I had what you have.
Right. Then I could
Then
do
I
all of
could.
these things.
But until then, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing,
and
even
it
if
sucks.
I don't like what
right.
I'm doing.
And
right.
I can't and I want
and I
to,
won't,
but
and I'll never.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always. It's exactly what she says.
Yeah. Oh, I have so much to say.
Please say it.
Yeah. Well, I guess like I have. So from the book, if we're full circle back to the book here. So she says like replacing, like taking all those like, oh, I wish or I can't or I don't have, and replacing it with a new truth. And I think that for me personally, I've been very blessed to have that awakening, or like I feel like someone literally shook me awake just a few years ago and was like, because I used to be like that. I used to be like, oh, well, I can't do that because I don't have enough money, or I can't travel alone because I XYZ. I don't know what it was, but
I'm too afraid, or I'm a woman, or
yeah,
I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before.
Yes, exactly. I'm very fortunate to be able to have like the freedom now to be like, well, I'm going and I don't give a fuck what anyone else says. Like, I don't care who's telling me it's wrong, because everyone in my family can say, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. And I can have friends say, I don't know if that's the right choice for you, but it doesn't matter because
It might not be the right choice for them,
yeah,
but clearly it is for you if
exactly.
you've made that choice.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that a huge
wild
thing,
woman.
She really is.
Oh my gosh.
Love Mary.
it's like this new truth that Jen Sincero is writing about. It's your truth. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. And it doesn't have to align with what you thought your life was going to look like. Like, what you need is not going to make sense to anyone else. Like, what you need is what you need, not anyone else.
That's right.
So you just have to do it. And I like that she's promoting this new identity, this new thought process of, oh, I already have everything I need. Like, I have everything I need to travel to Portugal for a month. I already have everything I need to succeed as a small business owner. I already have everything I need. I don't need anything more.
and
Mary.
life is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So seriously, why the fuck not?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like I go back to
Why
that.
not? Have an adventure.
I just go back to that all the time. Like,
Gosh.
really, like, Lisa, you're too fucking serious about this stuff. It is like really, really like, what are you losing if it falls through? Like,
Yeah.
what really do you have to lose?
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That's so, gosh, it is encouraging, enlightening, extremely interesting. She talks about, I mean, we all have this experience when we're kids, right? So, in the example she uses, if you grow up with a violent alcoholic father and your way to protect yourself is to just be small,
Yeah.
be invisible,
Yeah.
right? And then you grow up and you continue that because that's what you know, right?
It's what keeps you safe.
Yeah.
It is what, that's exactly, it keeps you safe. But it also means you never speak your truth.
Right.
You never stand up for yourself. You're still reaping false rewards. That is so, like that phrase,
It's profound.
reaping false rewards.
Yeah.
Man,
Because you're not actually fulfilling
you're not at all.
yourself.
No.
You're just,
You're not risking getting hurt or yelled at, she says. But it's backfiring on you.
Because you're bigger
hiding,
than that.
That's it. You're
Yeah.
hiding. You're not taking a stand for yourself. You're living a life that makes you want to roll over and go back to sleep every morning
Yep.
instead of getting up and facing your day.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like that hit a little too close to home. We'll move along. So how do you get rid of those stories?
You tell yourselves new ones.
Okay, what's really interesting is in my book, I don't know why or when I wrote this down, but at the end of this chapter, the love yourself was more than you love your drama. And I circled it and wrote, I'm addicted to the drama.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I think actually a lot of us are in
Yeah.
our own way,
Yeah.
right? Like drama might mean something different to each one of us, or how we engage in it. But it's the damn truth.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it might be, oh, woe is me. I couldn't possibly lucky you, or, you know, like it could be the drama of, well, nobody in my family has ever done this before. And and that means that I can't either.
I can't, because if I do, I will create drama.
Right.
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 Everyone will be looking
Right.
at me. I mean, so in, a previous episode and in a previous chapter, she started a band called Crotch.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine that her whole family was like,
Yeah.
woohoo!
Right.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
pass out the posters.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. But
Yeah.
for her, it was like, hot damn, I've got a band called Crotch.
Mhm.
Or even like, I mean, realistically, middle age and being
Yeah.
like, guess what? I'm going to do something really
Yeah.
not traditional for me.
Mm.
This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Like,
The last time I did that, my kids had an intervention. Mom, what's happening? We don't know who you are right now.
Right.
Oh.
We need to have a real talk.
I'm okay. I'm good. Here's what's going on, but I'm totally good. Finally doing something. I know it seems very out of character,
Mm.
but I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have not lost my marbles. I'm not, I have not, aliens have not taken over.
Not yet.
I am okay. I am okay. Yeah. Well, so this is how she explains, and you're not going to be at all surprised,
Mm.
that the way to stop the stories is to be an observer.
Mm.
That's it. Be an observer.
Doesn't
When
she
those things, when those conversations start coming into your head, I can't, I
Yeah.
won't, I'm never, I'm always. Notice them.
Mm.
Feel them.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping me safe,
Yeah.
but I don't need that anymore.
Right. And then it's about rewriting it.
And
Yes.
that's the
Like
next,
reversing
so
it.
then
Yeah.
that is the next step.
Look at me jumping to the
There
conclusion.
you are. Replace those feelings. Replace
Yeah.
those feelings you got from the false rewards with the feelings of joy, power, and excitement that stepping into who you truly are and who you are now becoming will bring.
Right.
That's spectacular.
Right.
Yeah.
And it shifts
It's full
everything.
of adventure then, right?
I
It
was
does.
this way. I'm not that
I'm
way
not
anymore.
anymore.
Thank you for it.
Right.
Honoring it.
Yes.
Right.
Honoring that.
You got me where I
Yeah.
am right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I can't take you with me.
Yeah.
My next adventure is bigger than that.
I'm bigger. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm bigger than who I was before.
Yes,
Yep.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So going out into the world and trying, yet still deep down believing that you're ruled by your past circumstances is like forgiving someone but still hoping they sit in something wet.
I mean, that might be true.
Yeah. So that's not really helpful though, is it? Because you're still hanging on to your past, right? So this goes back to the festering.
It does.
Forgiveness and festering. It goes back to that chapter
Yeah.
from our last episode. Like that, you can't, you truly have to leave it behind. You can't
Yeah.
hang on to it and, hope people behind you are like, wistful and,
Yeah.
hurting in some sort of way. You can't hope and wish that they're hurting in some sort of way or sitting in something wet.
It's kind of like you have to like let your old self die.
Ooh.
It's like a rebirth almost, which sounds a little crazy when I say it out loud.
It doesn't sound
No,
crazy.
no.
Because it's a belief system.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that belief system has to die.
Yeah.
I can't possibly.
Yeah.
This isn't something I'm good at. It's
Yeah.
not something I do. Nobody in my past has done it.
Yeah.
1,000 people told me I can't do it.
Yes. Yeah. And you have to literally let that belief in that part of you die in order to move forward, in order to forgive, in order to honor and then move forward. I think at least that's what happened for me. Like I had to like literally let these beliefs and this part of me die. Like, oh, I can only be one thing. I can only have one career. I can only be one type of woman. Like
It's very limiting.
yeah, it's very limiting. And then when I think when you have, like when you're able, and by no means is it easy, my gosh, at any age, it is not easy. And you have to like let that part die, and you have to
Yeah.
grieve that part of you too. And then when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm
So
gonna go
glad
do
she's
this.
gone.
Yeah. It's like there's this rebirth of like this person of who you were actually meant to be. And I think that this book is a great tool to help you get to that point of being like, I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to have these limiting beliefs. I want to be me without any fear.
You know what's interesting, Mary, as I'm listening to you talk, I agree with you. Like everything that you said, I agree with about, you know, kind of like taking that belief system about yourself and allowing it to pass, right? Like this is no longer me. The analogy of that dying is a very vivid
Yeah.
and accurate analogy. And I think that some of the fear comes in to those types of things. For instance, I would be more apt to be like, okay, I can let that die if I knew that my new version of myself were right on the heels of that. But that isn't necessarily how that works.
No. Is it?
Right? Like they're like to allow something that you don't want about yourself to die or to fall away, and then to find and identify and grow into what that new version of yourself is, that portion takes time.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of work
Oh, yeah.
to figure out, well, okay, I don't like that, but who do I want to be and who am I becoming? Man, that is not automatic.
No.
And I think that's that's where the scary part, I think, for me comes in.
Yeah.
So she talks about that. That's fear. So I've skipped a chapter or two. I'm on page 168 now. It's chapter 20. Fear is for suckers.
Yeah, this chapter got me
Yeah,
good because
yeah.
this is where I get pigeonholed really quick.
I know we skipped over a couple of chapters, but she talks about we've made being in fear a habit.
Yeah.
And we really do, don't we?
Yeah. So, and I
It's
think
comfortable.
I also think in our first episode, we talked a little bit about this. In our first book club episode, we talked a little bit about this where, that fear comes in and it's generational. It comes in from your parents and your grandparents and it comes in.
Social conditioning.
It is. And
Yeah.
it's socially conditioned as love, right? I care for you. So I want to protect you, and to protect you, these are the fears that you should keep in mind so that you don't get hurt. And I will be the first one to stand up to say, I have done this.
Yep.
I have had it done to me out of love, and I have done it to my children out of love.
For sure. She discusses that in this chapter.
I know she
At
does.
great length. It's, you know, warning, gosh.
But what happens if we put that the fuck down?
Yeah.
You might fail,
Okay.
but that's,
Yeah.
is
And
that
life
as bad
is
as it
life
gets?
is ridiculous.
Right.
So okay,
you
so
might.
you failed.
Okay.
Big fucking deal.
But you also might learn something from that, right?
Yeah.
you're probably going to
Yeah.
learn something from that.
Yeah.
I love that it says, it's so simple. Fear will always be there, poised and ready to wreak havoc, but we can choose whether we're going to engage. I circled the word engage. So it says we're either going to engage with it or we'll turn on the lights, drown it out, and crawl past it. And for me, personally, fear is always something that's in the back of my mind, but I would like to think that I have more hope in the unseen than grasping onto fear. And it's not easy. My gosh, it is not easy by any means, and I have not mastered it by any means. But when it comes for me in my life, like, I would much rather jump into something that I don't know than to, like, jump into something that is more stable, committed, where I'm like, oh, I know the outcome. If that makes sense.
So you need more of the adventure than the stability.
Yeah.
Well, so she says, on the other side of fear is your freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's what you're looking for.
And that's
Maybe
what
it's
you're
not
diving
adventure.
into, right?
Maybe it's not really adventure, it's freedom.
The freedom, yeah.
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 Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. But fear can be something that's so entrapping and so, like, withholding. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Well, and that's where that logical aspect of your mind comes in too. Like, oh, I don't want to take that level of risk because I don't know what to expect. If I go this route, it's more safe, and I can tell you what's going to happen if I take this, and that's the best way.
I can't quit my job because I don't know how I'm going to get money back into my bank account, right? I mean, I have enough to get me through a few weeks, but then what am I going to do?
Right.
So I better
What if
stay
everything
in this
runs
job
out? Right.
that I don't love. I better stay with this partner who I don't love.
Exactly.
Because it's comfortable. It keeps me small, but it's awfully stable. It's comfortable. It's not exciting, and not that you have to always look for the excitement, because that is a whole different trap. But when you feel like this is not where I'm meant to be, I am meant to grow from here, being a crab, right? Like you outgrow your shell kind of thing. If you don't do that, and you just stay small because it's safe, that's not okay.
It's done.
No, it isn't.
Yeah,
you're
it's
shortchanging yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that she talks about, one of the action steps, and how to not let all of this keep you in that safe, stable place. And again, there's nothing wrong with stability. I need stability in my life. Like that feels good to me. That doesn't mean that I don't want to grow.
Yeah.
But I also need stability while I'm doing it, right? So there's a balance, like just about everything. But one of the things she talks about is don't think of anything upsetting at bed at night. You'll never be able to sleep then, right? So then your mind is racing. You can't fall asleep. Maybe you drift off, but you wake up and your mind is still racing. What she talks about then is how to get out of that. Is to breathe deeply and think about all the incredible things in your life. Or listen to a guided meditation, do whatever you can to just get a good night's sleep, because the only thing worse than staying up all night freaking out about something is then being too exhausted the next day to deal with it. Yeah. So
it's perpetual then.
Yeah, right, for sure. Like you've sealed your fate by staying up all night worrying and fretting, and the anxiety that comes along with that. But you just don't break out of that cycle then. Yeah, so finding some peace in your own mind. Yeah. Even if it's just to shut it off for a minute. Maybe tomorrow you'll wake up right where you left off and you still have that very arduous task or that project or that, boss or coworker or whatever it is. Right. Yeah. But staying up all night worrying about it doesn't fix it.
Yeah.
So stop doing that. Yeah. What do you got after that, Mary?
Real quickly, before we move on to the next chapter, I like that right before she says, like, don't think about anything upsetting before bed at night, which is like the best advice ever given. She writes, be in the moment. And real quickly, I'm trying to reread this. So for me, when I hear that or when I read that, be in the moment, recently I've been trying to work on more of presence in my life because I am drowning in things that I should be doing, things I'm constantly thinking about for the future, XYZ. And I have a hard time being in the moment. Like even right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, when I get home, I have to do XYZ and I have to do these things before I go to bed or whatever it is. And when we're in the moment and we're locked into that source energy or that presence of God, like I'm here right now and there's nothing else I need to worry about. Or like before bed, like, okay, I can be upset about something or something is making me anxious, but right now I'm going to sleep and then tomorrow I can rework what's been on my mind. And I think that idea of presence also can help battle that idea of fear. Like, okay, I have a fear that I'm not going to, if I quit my job, my corporate job, I won't have enough money. Well, you don't have to worry about that right now because right now you have enough money. You have enough money to quit your job and then tomorrow you're going to be just fine. Like that idea of presence.
Are you sure about that, Mary?
Both of us got like 50-cent piece dollarized.
Yeah. Our eyeballs got real big.
But you're not wrong.
You're not
about
wrong.
that. Like, okay, so, tomorrow I'll have enough money.
Yeah.
In a week, I'll have enough money. In 2 weeks, well, that might be another story.
Another story, right?
And I'll deal with it then.
Yeah.
That's a
Makes my throat
hard
close up.
path. That's a really hard path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
That makes my throat close up.
Yeah. But I think like having that faith and that presence of that source energy can help us conquer fear.
I'm going to have to try that with smaller things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too. Like I can't quit my job.
Maybe
Maybe
in
you
practice.
can. Maybe you can.
I can't do that in practice. I
maybe
feel
a
like I have to
parking
do
spot might
maybe.
be better.
Yeah, I have to start smaller. I'm not ready
I'm just going to drive into this parking lot, and I know that when I get there might not be a parking spot right now, but when I get there, there will be.
Yeah, I could start with parking spots. Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, quitting my job and my actual bank account, like those are more tangible. I'll get a parking spot somewhere.
Let's practice this a little.
That's a tough one.
That's something to aspire to. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Heaps.
Anyway.
Yeah.
42 minutes.
It's 42 minutes.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So that's significant to me. My birthday is April 2nd, 42. That's my number. Anyway, so do you have anything else you want to talk about, or should we skip ahead a little bit?
We can skip ahead.
All right.
I don't have anything.
So one of the big fears that a lot of people have, it's not just me, it's a fear of failure. I could do that, but what if I fail?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's too scary. I'm safer over here. She says the only failure is quitting. Everything else is just gathering information.
What chapter are you in?
Oh, sorry. I am on page 195. This is chapter 23.
Got it.
The only failure is quitting. Everything else is just gathering information. Really? Yeah. So you tried it and it didn't work, but I bet you learned a couple of things from that. So, I've got this pottery studio in my basement. I'm not a master potter. I'm not. I putter around. I try this, I try that. Every time I try and something doesn't work, whether I am attaching a handle or I am, throwing something on the wheel, I learned something every single time. It's not a failure. So I've got, now I've just got a big old lump of clay on my wheel because it fell over. Well, I learned something. My clay doesn't stretch that far. Or if I want to build a whatever bowl or vase or cylinder that tall, I need more clay because I stretched it too far. Yeah. I learned something every time. I attached a handle, it fell off, it cracked. Well, I learned something from that
You're
too.
going to do it a little differently based on that experience.
Absolutely, right. When, it goes in the kiln and it's fired, well, that got too hot. It wasn't hot enough. It wasn't on the right shelf. There's always something to learn from that. It's not a failure. It's a learning experience.
It's a tweak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just gathering information. Yeah. So maybe I'm not a master potter. I'm not a master of my life either, really.
Yeah.
I'm gathering information as I go. This is just where I am right now.
That feels so much better. Really, it does. Like, as, we've been talking about Enneagram in season 2. We're going to talk about it again in season 3.
Sure.
And as a true blue Enneagram type 1, which is a reformer, right? Or, in some perspective, a perfectionist, it is taking those, like, this went well, this went well, this went well. Here's where it went off the rails. And I could fix that by, making this modification, changing this a little bit.
Sure.
And if you approach your whole life that way, as opposed to sink or swim, right or wrong, succeed or fail, like that changes the feeling of the whole thing.
Yeah. Or even just being stuck. Because I can't make a decision.
Right.
There's
I don't
no
want
succeeding
to.
or failing. I'm frozen.
Right. Because I don't want to.
Right. She talks about a little bit. I don't know that this is specifically what she's talking about, but it kind of seems to fit. It's just a highlighted section. She says, deciding is freedom. Indecision is torture. So when you're in that stuck spot, should I do this? A? Should I do this? B? You got to pick one, right? You're at a crossroads. Pick one. Make a decision. That is freedom. And you can't get it wrong anyway. You can't, right? The universe conspires on your behalf.
Right.
You cannot get it wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
But not deciding, being in that crossroads and staying there, that is torture.
So listen, I'm going to be, so listen.
So listen here.
So this is where I get stuck a lot because my predisposition, who I am by nature is do something. Do something. Don't sit and wait and do nothing because nothing will be done.
Well,
even if you fuck it up, do something.
Do something is better than doing nothing.
But that's also a double-edged sword, right? Because as you're trying to as you're trying to leverage intuition and follow the signs of the universe, sometimes it requires waiting and
divine timing is a real
patience
thing.
and things like that.
Sure.
My predisposition is fucking do something, right? Like do something.
Yeah.
Don't wait. Do something. And that's a very fine balance. I've learned, right? Oftentimes in situations, I find that I, in spite of what I'm trying to accomplish, I force action.
Oh.
As opposed
You're trying too hard.
I do. Right. So, I agree with this, but I also don't agree with it because there's a balance.
There is a balance. That's a tough one. I am more apt to hang back.
I know. That's
how it goes.
That's why we balance one another.
We'll just see how that goes. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm ready to jump just yet. And Lisa's like, no, let's go. Like you're always, like you're the horse that's pulling at the reins.
Yes.
And I'm the driver saying, wait a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute.
And I'm like, fucking let's go. We got to do something.
Yeah.
It's
We're
the same
both
thing.
fire signs, but I feel like you have way more fire than
It's
I
the same
do.
thing.
What's your zodiac sign?
Aries.
Oh,
Yeah.
and you're on the cusp, right?
I am. I'm between Sagittarius and Scorpio. But my fire is definitely
Yeah, you
from
have fire, for real.
Sagittarius.
Yeah.
And my husband's the same way as you, right? Like, oh, let's just hold back. Let's just wait. I'm like, fucking go.
Go already.
Like, make a decision.
Yeah.
We got to do something.
Right.
So, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
And I know in my heart of hearts that it isn't all just about forced action.
No.
And it isn't all just about waiting for the perfect situation.
It's not a thing either.
It's a balance.
It is. Yeah.
It is a balance. And
Right.
it's really hard to decipher.
It's about feeling inspired, really.
Yeah.
So you're chomping at the bit saying, let's go, let's go. You're not feeling anything. Someone who's waiting back saying, well, let's just see how it goes. They're not feeling either. There's a sweet spot in the middle.
There is.
Where the inspiration happens, where you're like, now it's time to go.
Yes.
Not because I'm in a hurry to get there, but because my spirit says now it's time to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a balance for those who wait too long.
Absolutely.
And it's a balance for those who are so assertive and ready to
chomping
run.
at the bit.
Yes.
Yeah, at the bit, for sure. Yeah.
Riding side saddle.
Ooh, I didn't even connect that.
Chomping at the bit, my
Chomping
friend.
at the bit. There it is. Well, I feel like that's a place to end this last. We have one more. We have really we are on we're on page 200.
How many tabs do you have left?
I have like 10.
Okay.
So we're on chapter 24.
Okay. Do you want
Page 200.
Do you want to save it for another episode?
How many do you have left? Well, you don't know because you don't have tabs.
I
You
really
just have writing in the margin.
I don't
You need
have
tabs.
much. I have a lot or not a lot, but like the chapter 24 about money.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that was a long chapter.
It's a long chapter, and it's also a big, let's be real. If you're human, money is a real thing.
Yeah.
Today it is. Yeah.
It is. Like
Yeah.
if you don't have enough money, you don't pay your electric bill, right? Like you don't buy groceries, you don't pay your mortgage or your rent or, whatever.
Yep.
If your bank account doesn't have it, it doesn't have it.
Right.
It is really hard to ignore that. So
Yeah.
I wonder if we should spend some real time talking about money.
Fair enough.
So why don't we end this chapter here? Why don't we end this episode here on this chapter and pick up again? Does that feel right, or you want to push through?
No.
What do you think?
Honey, I am not going to force action here.
Really?
I am just going to
You're just gonna wait back and be
balance.
inspired?
I'm just going to balance this
Look
out.
at you.
Mhm.
Look at you, Lisa.
Mhm.
Go, Lisa.
All right. So let's
Is that
wrap
fair?
this sucker up.
All
yeah.
right.
All right. Thanks for joining us for episode 3. We have one
Of
more.
our book club.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of our book club.
This one did get really long. I don't know that everyone will be this long. I don't know because we haven't read all of the books yet, but I feel like this one had so many parts to it.
Yeah.
It just was really an amazing book. And really was intuitive to what we've been talking about for like 2 seasons.
Right.
Honestly.
Right. It touched on all of the things that we've been talking
Really.
about.
Yeah. I felt like it wasn't just one topic. There's a lot of things in this book.
Right.
So.
Right.
We had to
So
break
I
it
don't want any of our listeners to get the idea that, oh gosh, this book club, it's going to drag on forever every time. It might not.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it might.
We don't know.
It could. We do like to talk. But it also might not. It might be a 1 episode and we're done.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't know because
Accurate.
I don't know what we're reading next. We haven't decided that yet. But so don't get bogged down. Don't give up on us because, it takes too long to get through a book. This one was extra deep.
Yeah.
Water your horse
Water your horse.
and get back on.
That's it.
Get back on the saddle.
Right. Don't be chomping at the bit. Just hang back a little bit.
I love it.
All right. We'll wrap this one up. Mind Garden Media, thank you very much, Todd, for always, doing all of the things you do. We don't even know what that actually entails. We just know it's a lot.
It's magical.
Yeah. Thank
It's
you.
magical for sure. Yeah. So if you're thinking about doing a podcast, we
Do
know a
it.
guy.
Yep.
Check out Mind Garden Media. I know they're on Facebook. We're on Facebook too. So I don't know how you found us, but if you want to catch a little more about us, we're on Facebook pretty regularly. So we're at Riding Side Saddle Podcast on Facebook. Like, subscribe, share, all of those great things.
YouTube.
Yep, we're on YouTube for sure.
All the other platforms
Spotify
for listening.
Yep, yeah. So we're all over the place. And which then brings us to our next thank you. thank you to our listeners. Thank you for people who are following along and sharing and liking and commenting and
Giving feedback,
sending us emails and
loving us.
for sure.
Thanks for loving us, and we love you.
We love you back. So,
All right.
Till next time, friends.
Bye.
Bye.